Finally, a few points. 1, 2, 3, 4 points. First point, marrying couples. We have dealt with this matter. There are some churches and groups in Nigeria who insist that they will not allow young people to marry until they present HIV certificates. My church has decided against that. Rather, we insist, or rather, we tell them, if you love somebody and you want to marry him, you ought to know him or her well. The least you can expect is to know his or her HIV status. And we encourage them to go and test. But we cannot stop them from, if they come for marriage, I have to marry them. But we do put the responsibility on them that if you are going to marry a young lady, she has a right to know your status. And you have a right to know her status. And we have the facilities for them to go and test for themselves. Even within the church, I'm afraid sometimes we have our problems. You know, a young man applies to be a priest. He passes very well. He's a very nice gentleman. We normally ask for medical tests, and we also insist, please make sure you also do the HIV test. The question is, what do you do with this? I'm afraid many cases, when the test comes out positive, the young man is not likely to get admission to the seminary. But the question I ask myself is, okay, what do you do with the priests who are already ordained? Do you kick them out of the priesthood? So there's something that it doesn't seem to make much sense. What I say about priests, those of you who are Catholics, the same thing happens also with religious women, young ladies who want to become reverend sisters. For as long as they are still in the process of formation, they're kicked out if they finally discover that they are HIV positive. My own position has been that for as long as we do that, all our sermons on stigmatization will just fly over people's head, because we should be the first person group to be able to say we embrace. For the simple reason that I don't believe, people used to tell me that, no, you can't be a priest if you are not of good health. And if you are HIV positive, you are a sick man. I said, no, that is where you are wrong. HIV positive does not mean you are sick. So many people are roaming around Nigeria who are HIV positive and don't know it, and nobody knows it, and everybody considers them healthy. Most people, like the experience we have had now, most people were HIV positive, they didn't know it until something happened. And so I believe we in the church, we have to come out quite openly, not just like Canon Gideon, but even in our own internal policies, not to discriminate. Because I don't think there's anything that a priest does which will spread HIV and AIDS. In the normal practice of his duties. If he does other things, that's another matter altogether. In Nigeria, you may have heard a lot about so-called clashes between Christians and Muslims. I want to tell you with all sense of responsibility that those news items are generally on the exaggerated side. They're generally simplistic explanation of complex economic, social, political rivalries. But despite that, we have managed to work together in interfaith level, especially with working towards overcoming discrimination and stigmatization. It is wonderful when I find myself in a big hall with imams and pastors all sitting together. And in Nigeria, you can't distinguish from the way you are dressed. So you don't know who is a Muslim and who is a Christian. And we are telling them, how do we preach to people in order so that they will have love for people with HIV and AIDS. And it's so wonderful. And they go out because we have a common problem. And while we are busy facing our common problem, we have no time to fight. Finally, permit me to that in the course of all this discussion, we've done very well to insist on not discriminating, on taking care of everybody, whether you are a prostitute, whether you are a drug user, whether you are a homosexual, and so on. But I do hope in the process we do not in any way appear as if we should abdicate our responsibility and our role as religious leaders to provide moral guidance, ideals that people should try to live by. And spiritual empowerment. And at least I belong to a Christian tradition which believes in spiritual empowerment. The young lady here was saying, you tell a young lady to abstain. Does she know how to abstain? Now, I believe to a tradition which says you can actually empower her spiritually to abstain. Telling her that it's not a matter of beating your breast and say, I will not do it. No. Go on your knees and pray for God's grace. And we believe in God's grace, and it works. But if you don't even give them that bit of information, and you leave them just to manage by themselves, obviously, they will flounder. And I don't think religious leaders can abdicate their responsibility in this regard, and definitely not this group of high-level religious leaders gathered. Let me end. That doesn't mean we have no responsibility for compassion and love. That is a basic imperative of all religions. I think I've passed 5 minutes.